Our two-engine bombers, the 42nd Bomb Group, were going to, as required, provide close air support to the Australian ground troops. And since we were the best air support they'd ever had, General Sir Thomas Blamey, their commanding general, had his headquarters with our headquarters. And I sat in on a staff meeting every day, every morning, reviewing the progress that had been made, what they expected to do the next day, and so on. And it was interesting. One of those days, General Sir Thomas Blamey told us a story about how the Dutch government had sent a bill to the Australian government for $25 million for their occupation of Dutch-owned islands and for destruction of the palm trees and coconut trees on those islands. And he told with great glee about how the Australian government had sent back to the Dutch government an identical bill, $25 million, for their services in recapturing those islands from the Japanese. Well, we got a big kick out of that until we moved forward to Morotai. And all of a sudden, I got called into General Matheny's office and he told me he was sending me back to Noemfoor, which was a Dutch island, which we had occupied for a while as our Bomber Command headquarters, transitionally. Well, I think that the same approach by the Dutch was probably given to our government in Washington, but they didn't handle it in the way I would have liked to have seen them do it. General Matheny, commanding general of our Bomber Command, called me in one day and said he was sending me back to Noemfoor with instructions to eradicate every vestige of our use of that island, just as if we'd never been there. Well, at this time, it was a rear echelon staging area for supplies being forwarded for the use of our Bomber Command units and our headquarters. So it was a useful thing. And I didn't know what all was on the island. The Assistant Chief of Staff for Supplies and Transportation probably had a pretty good idea, but I didn't. But anyway, I took all 9 of my aircraft, including my own C-47, flew back to Noemfoor and sized up the place, and oh my God, I hated to see what I was going to have to do. There were brand new Ford trucks, Ford or Dodge, I don't remember which, never been used, brand new out of the factory, and several of them there on that island. Eventually they made their way up to wherever we were. And a whole lot of supplies, cases of medical supplies, food, clothing, you name it. So I had to be very selective. I was able to use the Loken Airlines to take 2 round trips. The apparently most valuable, least weight, most useful to evacuate up to Morotai where we were. And that's all there was time for before the July 1st instructions to complete this mission by July 1st. Fortunately, there was a bulldozer. I don't remember whether there was more than one, but I had them dig a big trench, and everything that I couldn't fly out of there, except things that were too big, like the Ford trucks, buried them in the bulldozer dug trenches. And the trucks, we just drove off the island onto the coral reef, and just had the driver get out of the vehicle and keep it going in low gear, and eventually it dropped down into the deep. It was gone, lost forever. The bulldozer was the last movable powered vehicle that got that kind of treatment. And my plane and I were the last ones to leave that island. We had done the very best we could to eradicate all vestiges of our having used that island. Now, I think that was such a ridiculous thing to have done.